Recording in progress.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we start with open forum tonight, and we have several items on our open forum list to start with. The first item is a statement that I would like to read on behalf of the Select Board. On January 28th, a racial incident occurred at the Westford Academy girls basketball team. While that investigation is ongoing, we join Dr. Chu and Principal Antonelli in condemning the racist, hurtful, and hateful language used and heard. Such behavior cannot be tolerated, and the Select Board wants to apologize to the victim of that incident. Clearly, there is work to be done here in Westford. More than a year ago, the Select Board established the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Part of the charge to that committee was to identify needs around fostering acceptance and valuing diversity, and to discourage prejudice and discrimination against any person or group on account of their race, creed, color, income, religion, national origin, ancestry, gender, sexual orientation, veteran status, age, or disability. Tonight, the Select Board affirmatively and strongly restates its charge to the DEI Committee and its commitment to that committee's long-term work throughout the town and the schools to foster, encourage, and embrace diversity in our town. Okay. Next, we would like to acknowledge and congratulate the following promotions and change of duties and responsibilities within our police department as a result of the retirement of Captain Neal. So, congratulations to Detective Lieutenant Jim Peliquin, who is being promoted to administrative captain and taking over the duties and responsibilities of Captain Neal. To Lieutenant Christopher Ricard, who has now been assigned to Detective Lieutenant. To Sergeant Brandon Holmes, who's being promoted to Lieutenant. To Detective Tim Hughes, who's being promoted to Sergeant. And to Officer Justin Berlinski, who is being assigned detective. Congratulations to all of you on your new positions. I know that you've all worked very hard to get there, and we congratulate you and wish you all the best and good luck in going forward in these in your new positions. So thank you all. We very much appreciate it. Congratulations. Stay safe out there. Okay. Let's see. Next, as I said, we have several items to go through here tonight. I want to say thank you to Jim Duane. For anybody who does not know, Jim's last day with us as Director of Park and Recreation and Grounds was last Friday, February 4th. Jim was with us for 4 years. And we appreciate his time and his service to the town, and we wish him good luck in his next venture. So thank you very much, Jim, for your service and your participation here in the town. Next, I do want to announce that there is an upcoming vacancy on the Neshoba Valley Technical High School District Committee alternative seat on that board. The current seat is scheduled to expire on March 31st, 2022. And so we will be appointing someone to fill that seat. For those of you who don't know, we will be doing this at our March 22nd meeting. The appointment is a joint appointment by the Select Board and the school committee and the town moderator in a joint meeting among all of us. So we will be doing that on March 22nd. Anybody who is interested in that position can apply through the Citizens Activity form, which can be found on the town's website. And then finally, tonight, a sad note. Tonight, Westford mourns the death of Captain James Barrett. Jim passed away suddenly on Sunday night. After 38 years of service, Jim retired from the fire department a little over a year ago. Jim began his career with the fire department in 1981 as a call firefighter, achieving the rank of captain in 2009. Over the years, Jim was a valued member of the department. He was instrumental in obtaining multiple grants for the department. Quiet and unassuming, Jim was always ready to help and to assist. A townie, Jim and his wife, Eileen, grew up here in Westford. They married, they had 3 children, whom they raised here, and they stayed. The board, on behalf of the town, extends our deepest sympathies to his wife, Eileen, his 3 children, James, Jen, and Julia, his brother, Chip, our recently retired highway superintendent, his sister, Mary Lou, and his brother, Brian, and to all of their extended family. We are grateful for the years of service and dedication that Jim gave to our town. Anybody who knew Jim knows how much he loved Westford and how committed he was to our town. A light has gone out in Westford tonight, and we hold all of you Barretts in our thoughts and our prayers. And with that, we'll move to the business of the meeting tonight. Our first item is a request for a change of directors and manager on an MGL Chapter 138, Section 12, all alcohol club license for Nabnasset American Legion Post 437 at 114 Dunstable Road. Patty usually does this for us. She's not here tonight. So I'm not sure if it's Jody, if I ask you, but who do I ask to make sure that everything is in order?
I don't know if Andrew is here. Do you see him, Eric?
Yes, he is.
So you may ask Andrew.
Andrew.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks.
So is everything in order with the change of directors and manager for the alcohol license at the NAB American Legion?
Yes, that is correct. Everything's good to go.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next is our consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have a request to approve the following. Permission to route part of the annual Boston Brain Tumor Ride through Westford on Sunday, May 15th, 2022. Permission to hold a fundraiser involving selling and placing signs on Town Common in honor and memory of our veterans for Memorial Day from Friday, May 27th through Friday, June 3rd, 2022, and for Veterans Day, Thursday, November 10th, 2022 through Thursday, November 17th, 2022. The applicant is Westford Remembers. And I think that's it. Scott?
Yeah, can we do this separately? Because I need to recuse myself from the Westford Remembers vote.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So let's do the first one first, obviously, which is permission to route part of annual Boston Brain Tumor Ride through Westford on Sunday, May 15th. David Drilk of the National Brain Tumor Society is the applicant. Is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
Second? And all those in favor? Scott? Oh, you're recused. Sorry, John? No,
I'm
Scott?
recused.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
Scott, John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. And then now, is there a motion to grant permission for the fundraiser involving the selling and placings of signs on Town Common in honor and memory of our veterans for both Memorial Day and Veterans Day?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All those in favor, John,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. And Scott's recusing himself. Okay. Next. Okay, we're at our 7:15 p.m. item, which is the item that you have all been waiting for all year.
Drum roll.
Which is the presentation. This is just so folks know, we are in joint with the FinCom and the school committee, and this is the presentation by Jody of the fiscal year 2023 budget message. So Jody, with assistance from Dan, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So I think Eric has the screen up here. Is that, okay. All right, so basically we have the charter requirements relating to the budget, which I just like to open up with so everybody understands that it is in my role to present a budget to the Select Board and the Finance Committee. So when we start our budget, we follow the Select Board budget policy direction that every year you update with help from the Finance Committee. And basically it charges us to maintain level services and sustain our town assets through capital. We share all of our mission statements from every department and our organizational charts. We explain any significant changes. We try to offer transparency, and all of these documents are available online at the links here, or you can just go on our website at westfordma.gov. So we start with revenue, and we like to show you what our revenue projections were for fiscal year 22, and then what we're projecting for 23, and then what the variance is. So we break it down by category. State aid, we put in the governor's numbers that we got, and there wasn't a significant change, but there were some recalculations that we have adjusted for. Our enterprise, and then other available funds and free cash. So our total projected revenue is listed at the bottom, and there is the variance. So then we break it down. Here's our local revenue, and our motor vehicle excise, I'm pleased to say, is returning and up. And hotels and meals, meals is doing pretty well. Our hotels are still down. Of course, I'm not going to read them all. You can look down through these to see what all the local revenues are and how we come down to our total. We do compare it to fiscal year 21 actual, and then the budget in 22 and where we're projecting for 23. So of course, we then add new growth that gets added to the bottom line. This is a crazy chart when you see how our new growth has kind of gone up and down, and where we're at right now, it seems like we're generally fairly safe at around the 800 mark. So that's what we have put in for this year, and we will see if we're able to hit that. But we wanted to show you kind of what happens with new growth. So then we look at what is the additional new revenue for fiscal year 23, and then we list the sources as we've shown on this slide. So the total new revenue for this year is $3,315,428. So then we have a spreadsheet that we developed a few years ago that shows how we allocate that new revenue. And so there are certain costs that we really have no flexibility on, or very little flexibility. And so we've listed what these are. The Neshoba tech assessment is a projected figure. We're getting that budget on Friday, but we pretty much have accounted for everything in here and what we spent at our town meeting in October. And then we have a subtotal, and I think if you can go up a little bit, Eric. Okay, there you go. So the total funds remaining that are the new funds that the town can decide what to do with is the 2.3 million figure there. We split that with the schools, 74%, to the schools, and 26% to the town. And those are the numbers that are listed there. And that basically used up all the new revenue that came into the town. So then we go into projected expenditures, and we've listed these by the school, of course, the largest, and then other town departments, broken it down by the different categories. So you can see what percent of the budget each of these accounts for. Okay, that's fine. So highlights, we like to point out what's, deep in the budget. We do have a Word doc that goes with this, and I'm not going through that, but it mirrors this, but a little more language. So if you want to read through that, you get a little more detail. But so as I mentioned, we were allocating the schools 1.724825, or a 2.77% increase. The superintendent did propose options to the school committee for reducing $225,898 to meet this number. So that is where we're at right now. We allocated the town departments a 2.34% increase. And from the requests that came in from our town departments, we reduced those requests by $553,270 to meet the limited new revenue we had. Sorry. So we have a lot of collective bargaining agreements that are expiring in June. The town did settle with the firefighters through fiscal year 24, but we have 5 other of the town contracts that will be expiring in June. We are just starting negotiations with some of those. The schools, they have settled with the food service workers through 24, but they have all these contracts that we've listed here that are also expiring in June. So this is a busy time for both of us, meeting with all these different units and trying to settle contracts. So unclassified is a very large town budget, and this is mostly our insurances and other things. We've listed them here. The whole unclassified budget is going up by 3.95%. I'm really pleased to say that our health insurance budget is decreasing, probably for the first time in many, many years, and we'll get into that a little more in a few minutes. OPEB is increasing. We tied last year to the meals and hotel excise tax. So we did that again this year since hotel excise is off. So we are proposing to fund an additional $267,000 from free cash while that still is not come back from the pandemic. Middlesex retirement, you can see, is up 5.26. Our other insurances are increasing by 80,000. Medicare is 20,000 increase, and unemployment insurance is increasing by 10,000. So health insurance, as you all know, we are going to a partially self-funded health insurance plan on March 1st, 2022. If you remember, the town meeting approved us forming the health insurance trust fund. We transferred $720,000 and change from health insurance stabilization into the new trust fund. The current balance is $770,031. You approved the health insurance trust agreement and you appointed trustees. We've been meeting. One of you, John Cunningham, is a member of that with us. And it's been a great group, and we're all learning a tremendous amount. I think we've done a great job of saving the town significant funds. And we're going to report on that once we get into the new self-funded plan. But this is creating opportunities for us to control our costs and also become eligible for pharmacy rebates to the tune of maybe $500,000 in just that alone. So, okay, so the next, whoops, I got to keep up with myself here. So yeah, pretty much the last several years, we budgeted 8% increases for health insurance. This year, we received a 4.9 from Blue Cross. We're adjusting rates to a 2.5% effective March 1st. The Medicare plan decreased by an insignificant amount. That is not part of our self-funded plan. But the budget that we have is projecting a premium increase in November of 4%. But an important thing to note is by us moving to this, we are saving $766,000 in our fiscal year 23 budget, just starting. So that money would not have been available if we hadn't started this self-funded plan. We like to give you a little history, and this just shows what the plan percentage increase has been through the years. And, you know, we're hoping for very good things in the future on this. We also give the total subscribers, so you know how many of our employees are subscribing to the plan and then how many retirees we have. And I think it's important to note that the retirees have obviously gone up significantly through the years too. So that would be the Medicare subscribers. So OPEB, Dan's favorite topic. We have a policy that we've been really trying to follow, and our current net liability, which changes, but is around 75 million. We're funding OPEB at 1.18 million with 913 in the operating budget and the 267 I mentioned earlier from free cash. And that's an increase of 505,000 from last year. Our trust fund balance is 11,601,560, and after this appropriation, we'll have 12,788 in the bank on this. And in our health insurance budget, we fund the retiree health insurance portion to the tune of 2.3 million this year, or in fiscal year 21. So Middlesex retirement is legislated to be fully funded in 2037. And this year, our contribution increased by 5.26%. We do pay this bill early, as soon as we get it, and we save 111,000 by doing that on July 1st. So I've been talking about this a long time. The select board formed a public safety staffing working group in fiscal year 18 that recommended 5 new police officers and 8 additional firefighter paramedics. I have hired 4 police officers and 5 paramedics. In this budget, I am recommending to hire the last police officer for the current request and 1 firefighter paramedic. That would leave 2 more firefighter paramedics. I was not able to fund 1 police cruiser that was requested. I did fund the overtime accounts in police and fire, and we have been funding the firefighter shifts with FEMA while it's been available. Hopefully that will continue. And we did have a request for 1 more dispatcher, the 911, but I was not able to fund that. So other changes, I used to have 10,000 in my budget for performance training for our department heads and others. We eliminated it. I put 5 back because it is important to have leadership training for our staff. We did reduce legal services budget by 20,000. We were pleased that we're tracking low enough to do that. In HR, we had a full-timer that we had made an accommodation to cut those hours several years ago, and we are restoring it because that person just retired. We did increase the town clerk election workers because of the election she has coming up. This year, we centralized most building maintenance, most of our buildings. These are the categories we pulled out of the individual town departments. For example, town hall, police, fire, highway. We pulled these numbers out of their budget and put it into one budget which was $86,500 that Paul Fox will be overseeing to manage those departments' needs. The health department requested to increase their nurse by 7.5. I was not able to fund that, but the select board did approve ARPA through June 30th, and they are still requesting ARPA funding for the next 2 fiscal years. I did ask Ray, it is related to COVID. So other departments, recycling decreased. I know that's amazing, but it did decrease by $204,000, and we did start generating revenue on processing fees. I hope that continues. I think we just had a month that it didn't, but I'm hoping it will come back. Solid waste increased by $67,449, with disposal fees increasing 90 to 93.60 per ton. The Neshoba tech assessment, I have a projection. I think it's pretty close, but we'll find out Friday. Recreation enterprise, we're applying $75,000 in retained earnings. Last year, if you remember, the select board approved lost revenue replacement from ARPA of $456,708. Ambulance, people are beginning to ride the ambulances again. We're applying $25,000 in retained earnings, and state assessments decreased by $225,207. Federal funding, I mean, this has been really a big project for the select board and others, but it's been so helpful. And these are some of the sources of funding we've had and the numbers associated. And as you know, the select board are continuing with their ARPA plan to spend. And it's at this point, we believe the total will be about $7.4 million. Reserves, another very important part of our town budget. We have listed our fiscal year 21 reserve, what we are projecting for 22, and where we are projecting to end 22. Capital, really important. You know, we have a very active capital planning committee, and Anita, thank you for participating with us on that. So we have taken a vote, and this is what we are recommending that the town spend in capital. The number may change slightly depending on certain things that happen between now and when we're getting things finalized for town meeting. But once we figure out what we want to fund, then Dan and I put our heads together and figure out what's the best way to pay for this without having our tax rate jump around. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. We do have a balance in capital stabilization for $1,049,435. We will be putting the final 2 payments from Cornerstone into the capital stabilization at the upcoming town meeting. And the select board just did approve requesting the town meeting consider funding $580 towards 35 Town Farm project, basically moving the fire training facility or relocating that to a different location. And then we would pay back this funds when we closed on the property. So Public Works, we've been very, very busy, and several of the projects, I won't read through them, but you can look at them. And we've also included the funding from the different sources, whether it was Mass DOT or through our own funding sources. So, you know, Boston Road, you've been working hard on that. The Moore Road, I think the folks are tired of all the construction there, but we're hoping to be substantially complete in 2022. We're talking about sidewalks, as you know. We've continued that on Carlisle Road, Littleton Road widening project, which is going on, and then we're designing culverts as part of the stormwater enterprise. So we are working on other projects which are listed: water storage tanks, wastewater treatment tanks. This is important for me to note. The DPW they did pave 6 miles of roads in 2021, and they only used Chapter 90 and Newport materials. So no town appropriation went towards paving those other than incidentals. And they are funding their pavement management plan for 23 out of Chapter 90 and Newport materials. So some years the town gave $500,000 more towards this or other numbers, but the last 2 years, we're not putting any operating funds towards those road paving other than incidentals. So Town Center Building, we're talking about this again tonight. We've got a little history here of what the town has already appropriated, what the cost is right now. Some of the offices that we're hoping to include: technology, facilities, veterans, community wellness coordinator, and sustainability coordinator, if the board approves that position. And you did vote to approve the design and bring it to town meeting, but I know that is going to be discussed again today. 63 Main, I'm so happy to say that the town did sell this, and we closed on it in November, and we did reimburse capital stabilization as we had promised. The parcel was subdivided, and the town did maintain a rear portion for future town parking. .35 Town Farm. You did enter a purchase and sales agreement with Choice to build senior housing and a new home for the food pantry. And I mentioned the fire training facility. You did give $237,000 of ARPA towards that project, and the 580 I just mentioned. 12 North Main is also on tonight's agenda, and we just recapped where we are on the funding. Historical Commission would like to recommend reducing the footprint and saving some part of the structure. You'll talk about that a little more tonight. Variables, there's always variables, and this could change what's happening. We listed a lot of them here. Just things to keep in mind while we're planning how the year goes and how we get ready for the future. So that is the presentation. As I mentioned, there is a Word doc that goes along with it. It's all on the website, and we're happy to begin this process with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody, and to everybody who has helped you put this budget together over the last couple of months. I know it requires a lot of work and input from everybody to put it together. As a point of information for our residents, the Select Board and the FinCom will start their joint meetings in which they go over and review all of the departmental budget requests beginning on March 3rd. And following on most Thursday nights. So agendas are posted, and so anybody who is interested can obviously sign in to watch and participate in those meetings. With that, are there any questions from the board, just in general about Jody's presentation? I don't see any, and in looking at our audience, I don't see any questions from them either. So with that, Jody, thank you. This is, just as I said, and as Jody said, it's the initial budget presentation. Budget discussions will now be taking place probably over the next 6 to 8 weeks as we go through the budget and continue to refine it. Jody?
Yes, just in closing, I would just like to thank particularly Dan. I know I drive him crazy during this process, so thank you, Dan, for all your patience with me, and all the department heads really have been so cooperative and really understanding of limited resources. So thank you all.
Okay. All right. We're at our 7:35 p.m. item, which is a joint meeting with the Permanent Town Building Committee to discuss sustainability options for the new center building at 51 Main Street. Before we get started, I want to frame this discussion for everybody who is listening and who is participating. First off, I do want to recognize and acknowledge all of the work that the Permanent Town Building Committee has done on this project, which has now been going on for, I think, the last 5 years. The project has gone through ups and downs. It has been changed. The committee has responded to various directions from the select board, sometimes contradictory directions, sometimes not. But the Permanent Town Building Committee has responded to all of those. There was a 2-year hiatus given the pandemic. And I do think their work, and the board does want to recognize their commitment to this project over the last 5 years. They continue to hang in there. That being said, while over the past 5 years, at least I personally believe that the project has improved over the 5 years, we are still not there yet. New concerns, new circumstances have arisen, which causes all of us to give pause and to figure out how we address these new concerns, including ones that have been brought up by the Climate and Energy Sustainability Committee. At our last meeting, issues were raised about sustainability, about energy efficiency, and about whether or not we can achieve and we want to achieve net zero with this building. The select board gave direction to the Permanent Town Building Committee to go out and explore what getting to net zero would mean for the town and what options are available to reach that goal. The Permanent Town Building Committee is looking to the select board for direction now as to how to proceed and what to do. And I think certainly that's legitimate on their behalf. My understanding at this point is that the Permanent Town Building issued a request for proposal, and that that was responded to, and that we did get a response from Connext and our architect. And over the course of the last week, certainly the board, and I also know that the Permanent Town Building Committee has received comments and emails from both the Clean Energy Committee as well as residents in response to both of those documents. I think where we are tonight is, in order for the select board to make a determination as to the direction to give to the Permanent Town Building Committee, we need, as a board, to understand what the options are available to us and what the impact and costs of those options are for the town. There seem to me to be, at two extremes, two parameters. One is if we just sort of build the building as it is and as it has been proposed right now. The other end is whether or not we make the building net zero, and how we get there and what we do to get there and the costs associated with that. And then in between are options for either reaching net zero, or if we're not able to reach net zero, what we do include to get as close to net zero as possible. I.e., do we build the building with options A, B, C? Do we build it full out or whatever? But in order to make that decision, the board needs to have an understanding of what those options are and what the costs and expenses and the implications of those options are. And at this point in time, the board doesn't have that understanding. Now, in moving forward, in order to reach those decisions, I think that it's important that the Permanent Town Building Committee and the Clean Energy Committee work together to help answer those questions. Everybody's got a lot of knowledge here, okay? And everybody has certain areas of expertise and experience that they bring to the table. But right now, I think people are talking past each other and past one another. And so in order to help the board make its decisions and its recommendations, I think what I'm going to propose and what I'd like to discuss tonight is forming a subcommittee of a small group of people that involves both representatives from the Permanent Town Building Committee, representatives from Clean Energy, a select board representative, if he or she is willing, to come together to discuss both the request for a proposal that went out, the responses that came back, and then to sit down and evaluate how we proceed, what the response was, are there alternatives, what do they cost, and what the ultimate implication is for the town. And that's what I want to focus the discussion on tonight. This is not a discussion about the building itself, what should be included, how big the rooms are. That's not on the table for tonight. Also, what is not on the table for tonight is a final and ultimate decision as to what may or may not be included in this building to obtain energy efficiency and sustainability. What's on the table for tonight is how do we move through a process to help the select board make the decision that it needs to make. So that's how I'm framing the discussion tonight. Before I open it up to the audience, I want to open it up to the select board for any comments that they have. Tom?
Andrea, I think that's an outstanding approach. And I don't know if I'll be fighting other select board members to participate, but I would certainly be happy to do it. One point I just wanted to make, which Eric and I were speaking about earlier today, is the town is about to, or actually has already engaged in an ESCO to look at sort of a very systematic, broad energy savings approach for Westford, including renewable energy sources, including lots of different exciting options for the town that I think is going to really do a lot of good for the town and for the environment. There's a huge amount of expertise. The firms that we're contracting with do this all day, every day, all across the country. And so I think Eric will have some good insights on how to do this, but I'd like to make sure that they're, given that we're already contracting with them to do some of this work, that we're bringing their expertise to the table. And sort of a subtle point is, I think some of the programs that, I want to make sure we don't do something redundant, because I know, for instance, the ESCOs are going to look at all the different appropriate PV sites and how to structure them and fund them and what the options are for the town. I just want to make sure we're being thoughtful about what we're asking the Permanent Town Building Committee to do as well, so that we aren't paying money for, different contracts and approaches for the same thing without carefully considering it.
Absolutely. They definitely should be included. Scott?
Yeah, I guess, two thoughts. One was, I think it's a good plan. Secondly, just to make it quite clear that we're looking at only 51 Main. We're not looking at any town policies on other buildings. This is a solution for one building that we have right now. I'd also volunteer to serve. Tom and I have been tag teaming on school safety and police and fire personnel. So happy to work with them on this one if that's the desire of the board.
Great. Appreciate it, both you and Tom. Okay. I don't see any other comments from the board members. So if there are comments from any of the folks who are out there in our audience, please raise your hands to let me know, and I can certainly recognize you. Wow. I don't see any hands raised. Since I don't see any hands raised, I'm going to take that nobody has any objections. But I see a question, so hang on a minute. Mike Berlinski wrote that the CEASC appreciates the suggestion. Thank you, Mike. So seeing that there aren't any objections, I think probably the next steps up, wait a minute. See, now when I'm about to say something, everybody raises their hand. I see that Paul Morse has his hand up. So if you could unmute Paul.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good, good. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad with the approach that you're laying out there, but I also want to reiterate the need for what I'd call prescriptive net zero guidance for both 51 Main and the library, which are two projects that are near simultaneous with each other, close proximity in both high visibility construction projects in the center of town. And it may actually be that the library advances very quickly here, depending upon the state grant schedule to this summer. So it'll be coincident with what you're trying to achieve here with 51 Main. So we have a major opportunity, in my view, to align the efforts on both of these projects to ensure we have sort of a modern 21st century town center that responds to the climate challenge that we all face. And I would say to you that let's not miss the chance to do the right thing. It would be a shame to drive by the center year after year and have to say, what were they thinking? They only did one building, not the other. So you have a chance to consider the implications on a little bit broader context than simply 51 Main Street.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. And I appreciate your comment. For tonight, all we are considering is 51 Main Street. If the, and for several reasons. First and foremost, nobody from the library is here tonight, and we would certainly want to hear from the library. Ellen Rainville, our library director, has been working on this for several years. And secondly, if the library should, for whatever reason, come forward, and if the funding should happen to come forward, then we will have the opportunity at that point in time to discuss it, and if need be, to turn our attention to that building as well. But for now, what's before us is 51 Main Street. All right. With that, my suggestion to both permanent town building and someday I'll get all the initials correct in the right order, the CEASC committee, is that you folks, I would say, if we have a working group of somewhere between 5 to no more than 7 people to get together to work on this, I think that would be productive, and that at some point in time, not too long, I don't think anybody wants this to be strung out for months, that after going through the proposal and the responses, coming up with options, discussing them, trying to expense them, that you come back to the board with what I hope will be a consensus recommendation. And if it's not a consensus recommendation, at least, the various options for the board to consider when it makes its final decision. Tom, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, I just want to say on behalf of the Permanent Town Building Committee, I think, we obviously have not discussed this as a group, but I personally think this is a good approach on this, and we look forward to working with the with the Clean Energy Committee and with our consultants and this board also. And I think we can come back at a later date with a solution and a recommendation. I think that will hopefully meet everybody's interests on this project. So I appreciate this recommendation. And I also did want to mention Chris Logan is here on the meeting. If you needed him to speak, we could raise him to a panelist. But I think we've got clear direction here, at least moving forward.
Yeah. Scott?
Just knowing that we're forming a working group, and we got 3 sort of sub teams on that group to maybe could we suggest, if he might should be, but could we suggest that Tom Mahana be the sort of like acting chair to get everything organized, so we can as a work group take it from there, but just have one person right now to coordinate. Maybe that'd be Tom, if he would volunteer.
Is Tom volunteering and agreeing to that?
Sounds like I'm being voluntold.
I'll let you take that up with Scott.
It was a request.
That's fine. That's fine. I think that would be happy to do it.
Okay, then I guess with that, whomever is reported, who is appointed by the Clean Energy Committee should let Tom know. I am I'm assuming that Anita and John, you were both fine with having Scott and Tom tag team and work on this.
Oh, love to help, but one of the things I'd just like to ask is, one thing seems to be missing. We're talking about process here and this in, this out, whatnot. What is the vision of the Clean Energy Committee as to what this building will actually do when we get through with it? Is it going to include geothermal? What are they really looking at, and what's it going to contain? Because we've got all kinds of options here, but what is the ultimate goal here? We talk about net zero. Well, until the power is all renewable, we won't be at net zero, I don't think. So it's a long term. It's more than just the construction of the building. It's some follow-on stuff too. So I'm just concerned about just kind of having that vision of what that building is going to, be.
Mike Berlinski has his hand up, so I'm going to let him answer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Mike.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Mike Berlinski, Chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. Thank you for the question, John. I'd say that the shortest answer is we don't yet have finalized our vision and desires for this building. We are in the process of putting that together, working with members of our committee and other residents, other stakeholders in town. I will say that one idea I can offer as an example of where we're thinking is a net zero energy building. And there's a lot of details with any building certification or design standard. And I don't think it's appropriate to go into a lot of time now to discuss all the details. But something like that, we expect to be part of our vision and request. There's lots of different design standards and considerations. And again, we are in the process of forming that. So I don't have a complete nor succinct list. And we do look forward to discussing different options with members of Permanent Town Building Committee and now this working group.
Okay.
I think that's part of what the working group's going to be talking about. Chris Kopinski?
Sure. Another answer for John too, that, with really good engineering, you can build a really tight, efficient building now that also is ready for electrification in the future to achieve net zero as solar resources come online on town. So with good design, the building could be future-proof, not only to meet its needs for what it has in the immediate moment, but as things evolve in the town square or elsewhere in town, it could take advantage of energy sources that are available. So I don't think it's too hard to achieve with good design.
Thank you. All right. With that, I think we have a plan to go forward. I thank everybody. I know everybody is passionate about this. I know that everybody at the end of the day wants to design and hopefully construct the best building possible, not only now, but for the future. So thank you all very much. And I guess, Tom, we will leave it in your hands when people get back to you to organize and to move the subcommittee forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. We're at our 8 p.m. item, which is our continued discussion of the ARPA fund requests and to determine allocations of ARPA funds that all fell within what we called the Category 1 criteria. So as we always do, can we just start with a brief review, I think by Dan, of the projects have been approved and the funding that has been spent and the funding available?
Of course. So last summer, we appropriated just over $3.7 million in ARPA funding. To date, the select board have approved 16 different projects that are all listed here. We keep this spreadsheet up on our website, so anybody can go and get a look at it wherever they want. The cost of those projects is just over $1.3 million. So our current available balance is $2,397,000 at the moment. Next summer, we're supposed to get the second half of the ARPA funding, so another $3.7 million. So we'll have over $6 million available in ARPA funding to be distributed.
Great. All right. My plan is, board, is to go through the phase one funding requests that we still have before us that we haven't made a decision on. And honestly, to reach some decision on these tonight, whether it's to fund them or not to fund them. But let's try and reach resolution of these tonight so that we can actually move forward on some of these. So I think probably, see, before I even say it, Eric's got it up. I was going to say we go through the spreadsheet and the funding requests, and the first, how many? 1, 2, 3. Is it 4? The first 5. The first 5 requests are for WestfordCAT equipment upgrade. I know that Sarah Fletcher is out there if any of us have questions about the funding of these items and where we are. I mean, most of them are to permit WestfordCAT to continue its coverage and to enhance its coverage of our meetings, of events, of services to the public, both now and in the future and as a result of COVID. So comments from the board? What do we want to do with this?
What's the total
Dan?
for CAT? What would be the total?
Right, I know. I'm asking Dan to tell us.
I know.
I can't do that, John. Dan, that's Dan's department.
It's $31,635.
Yeah. Okay.
Tom.
I think we're
just as liaison to this, to WestfordCAT from the select board, I think we've seen that there will be a continued need and a continued benefit to more remote and hybrid coverage, connecting grandparents to sports games and the public to meetings. I'm wondering whether some of this falls into our category 1 of sort of emergency things that we need to do now, and some might also be in category 2. I guess the question maybe I'd have for Sarah is, are there any of these that are particularly urgent, either because of end of life of equipment, I guess that's why this one's highlighted, or because of an unmet need that would deserve sort of special phase 1 early attention?
Sarah, can you answer and respond to Tom's question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Fabulous. Thank you very much for having me on tonight. I think that where I'm seeing a big need is in the ability to bring equipment out to the schools and out on location when we're doing graduation, town meeting, covering sports and some of the special events at the schools. So the sports cam is the and the mini TriCaster, that is probably a big priority. And the 2 recorders, one for each meeting room, that would be beneficial at this point. The in-studio equipment, that it is at its end of life. It is a priority item for the studio, but I think that one could probably be postponed a little bit for the later phase 2.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
It seems to me that, most of this speaks to, the transparency that we all want to have with the town. The dollar values are relatively, short money. So I think the benefit, not just as Tom mentioned, to those who might not be able to otherwise, see sporting events, but just our we already know we've got at least one town meeting coming up outdoors. So I think in the interest of good government, it makes sense to approve these.
I also, I would agree with you, Scott. And also, I mean, we don't know when or if or what the status of our virtual meetings will be after April. And we certainly want to be able to have all available resources to be able to make sure that our meetings get the, continue to have the kind of coverage that we've had for the past almost 2 years. So I would agree with you, Scott. I don't think it's, I don't think it's a significant amount of money, and I would be prepared to fund the whole thing. So, Anita?
I'd be comfortable supporting all of the items that have to do with government meeting coverage as well. The one where Sarah said she could potentially see it under phase 2, I would like to just kind of put that aside and maybe come back to it after we finish the rest of the list. If that's okay, the one for the studio.
I can't see on the chart in front of us. What's the dollar amount?
It's 16,805.
Okay. All right. So is that your motion, Anita?
Yeah. if we're going to vote by section, I guess.
Jody?
Yes, just to make it easy for us to keep track, we did include the project number in the first column. So I think if in your motions, you can use that project number, then we're sure that we're getting the right project. Thank you.
Thank you. We try and make it easy for you guys. So I think it would be 1, 2, 3, and 5. Is that right? Somebody make sure I'm right. I see heads nodding.
I think so.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Jody?
What?
Well, you still have your hand up. I thought you wanted to say something.
No, I'm just taking notes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Anita, is your motion to fund 1, 2, 3, and 5?
Yes.
Okay.
I make the motion to fund 1, 2, 3, and 5.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. And if I forget, Jody, could you remind me to come back to 4 before we leave the discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Andrea, you just have one question in the audience from Tom LaFlamme.
Okay, sorry. Tom LaFlamme asks, will this equipment allow for live stream online for those that do not have cable TV access? Sarah, is that you? It's certainly not me who can answer that question. So Sarah?
Yeah, actually, all of our programming is available to watch online. A lot of it is now going directly through our YouTube station, but anyone can log on to WestfordCAT.org and tune into one of the channels to watch what's playing right now, any of the channels. Public education and government, we have 3 channels. Whichever one you're interested in watching, you can watch directly from WestfordCAT.org.
Thank you. Okay. Moving along, the next sort of group of items are have to do with the schools. Hey, Eric, is there any way you can make this chart a little bit bigger for those of us who are visually challenged? Thank you. The school requests include 5th hour of elementary math interventionists, Lexia subscription. I know there's one more. And the Panorama subscription. Again, is there someone, I think either Chris Saunders, Dr. Chu, or Valerie, do one of you want to address these three requests? Chris, hi.
Hi, this is Chris Chu. How are you?
Good.
So these three requests are all specifically for next year. So, I mean, as you're talking about the immediate needs versus planning for the future, but those are all three things that are not in our FY23 budget. They're things that we'd be able to, that our students would benefit from, but it was something that we were using different supportive funds for in the first place. So the Panorama, the Lexia, and the fifth hour for the math interventionists were all being used. They were all being supported by previous funds that we were getting through, whether it was the ESSER funds and or the CARE Act funds initially. So if we were able to support them with ARPA funds, it would allow us to provide those supports to students for one more year. They're all very different, so I can speak specifically to each one if that would help. But if you have questions, I can answer those as well.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Jody?
Yes, just to clarify, so when you all decided how you were going to go through this process, you said phase one was COVID related. So we gave you all COVID related, and then we brought you the immediate needs, and you've already kind of addressed those. This is the rest of the COVID related. Right. So I just wanted to make that clear. It's not that these are necessarily immediate. They are COVID related. You already handled all the immediate needs. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, thank you. Chris, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
In general, so these three programs have been funded either by CARES or ESSER funds, and if we fund them for FY23, they would be funded by ARPA funds again. I guess my question to you is, since these are one-time funds, what happens in fiscal year 24 and going forward, and will these programs, I think I know the answer to the first part of this question. Will these programs go away, or will they be some
great opportunity, but for another year to help move our students forward? But then we would be reassessing whether we felt like it was something we needed to carve into our budget for the future. Panorama is something that we just started using with starting specifically to address the social emotional well-being of our students and staff. And we started using it last year, but this year we found a great deal of benefit from using it. So we would love to be able to extend that to another year before we determine whether that's something that, if we felt like it was a platform that we needed to continue, then we would then carve it into our budget at that moment in time. And then the additional hour for the math interventionists, our math interventionists have been with us for a long time. When we were responding to COVID, we increased their hours. So we used funds to bring them up an additional hour to provide that support, to help with some of the learning loss and to help with some of the transition for students back to school. And we feel like that would be a beneficial thing for us to have for another year. It would also be in line with the other interventions that we have in terms of scheduling purposes. But all three of them are really things that we want to continue to assess whether or not they're long-term needs or not, which is why we're asking for them to be supported by the ARPA funds, knowing that they're one-time funds.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions from the board? Anita?
I would support lines 6 and 7, so that fifth hour of elementary math and Lexia subscription. But I just have a question about the Panorama subscription, Dr. Chu. So I know that's something you said was fairly new. And could you give an example about how you've been able to use the findings of the Panorama survey in the past in terms of like strategies you've been able to apply to the schools based on what you've learned from that so far?
Sure. So when we first used it, we used it last year, right when we were coming back, and we were still in the hybrid model, and we had students who were in different pods, and we used it to check in with all of our students in terms of their engagement in school. And we were able to use that data to help us figure out where our remote students as engaged as our as our hybrid students. And so we used it at that moment in time as sort of as a immediate snapshot. And then in the spring, we're able to work with Panorama. They're a national organization that is research-based and is able to create these different surveys based on different topics. And so in the spring, we used it specifically to start asking questions about diversity, equity, and inclusion as well, because we've been a big theme of ours has been really making sure that there was a strong sense of belonging within the district. And so in the spring, we had surveys for both families and for our students that focused on this sense of belonging. And so we've been using that as a benchmark to then now begin to measure growth. So just recently, we had follow-up this year with surveys for our K-8 students, and in April, Westford Academy students are going to be taking the surveys as well too. So we're using it to kind of measure the work that we are doing, as well as inform very specific areas that we still have more work to do in terms of, so it's based on different topics, like I said, like whether it's a sense of belonging, whether it's their engagement in school, whether they feel connected to adults in the building. And so we've been using that information to then, it's school-based, so that then the schools are able to kind of look at it to see if there's specific areas that they need to target as well. I don't know if that helps or not.
Tom?
It sounds like all three of these programs in different ways were kind of brought in to help transition, first help us adapt to COVID and remote, and then transition back. And I don't think that process is ending anytime soon. I think we've got another year at least of careful, thoughtful transition back to normal. So I would support moving forward with all three of these.
Okay.
I agree.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve items 6, 7, and 8 for a total of $128,000.
Second.
All those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next category of requests, Jody, you have your hand up.
Yes, so I'm very happy to say, because the state is giving us $350,000 towards COVID issues, Paul Fox has removed his requests for 9, 10, and 11.
Okay. All right. So now we're at the fire department, which is requesting payroll costs, basically, yeah, payroll, staffing requests, overtime, and overtime, 12, 13, and 14. Oops, and 15. So Jody?
Yes, so just to be clear, so as you know, we have been funding 10 per shift. And so the request is really for the 554, 643. If FEMA goes away, which we're told it is in April, but that may change. And then you asked us to add a column on budget impact. So you will see that the budget impact of you funding that would be 193, 112 in the fiscal year 23 budget. The next items, 13, 14, and 15 are if you don't fund 12.
Got it. So we either fund 12. If we fund 12, we don't need 13, 14, 15. If we don't fund 12, we need 13, 14, 15. Is that what you're saying?
Is that right, Dan? Am I right?
Yeah, if we hire the firefighters, we don't need the additional overtime. There might be some bridge between the actual hiring time and when FEMA ends that there could be a small overtime request, but it's really one or the other.
Okay.
And the other thing just to add is that, you know, we did put in a SAFER grant, or it is going in late this spring, but we won't know whether we get that or not. So if we don't need the funds, obviously we would return them to the town. But that is the request. 12, or 13, 14, and 15.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Comments?
I like 12.
Okay. We have one vote for 12. Scott?
Yeah, I think we think about COVID impacts. I think probably number one is kids being remote learning, and number two is first responders and public safety. So I think I'm with John. 12 to me makes sense.
I think 12 makes sense too. I agree. Is there a motion? I'm telling you, we're going to make decisions tonight, guys.
I make a motion that we approve item 12.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. So we're to Fund 12, which means that we can now delete 13, 14, and 15, right?
Yes, and our fire chief just said thank you.
All right, so now we are at our health department. So we funded the additional hours for a public health nurse for the remaining fiscal year 22. We put on hold initially the funding for additional hours for fiscal year 23 and 24. There's also a request for 18 is vaccine clinics. Is there more, Eric, if you scroll down for the health department? Nope, okay. So the health department is 16, 17, and 18.
Ray is here too, if you're looking for answers.
Is there a number for 18?
Dan, I think is shaking his head no. Is that right?
There's no number yet. I think in the comments here, we have revisit the demand on March 1st. So we don't know if the vaccination clinic will be necessary at this point, depending on what happens.
Okay, Ray has her hand up and she's with us. So Ray?
Yes, hi, good evening. So for our department tonight, we would like to request the removal due to state funding for number 18.
Okay. So now we're just, we're back to additional hours for the public health nurse for fiscal year 23 and 24. Tom?
It seems to me like item 16, so for fiscal 23 makes a lot of sense because that's right in front of us in terms of our planning. I guess, Ray, is there any wisdom in revisiting the public health nurse hours for then the following fiscal year, or is there something about the way the world is and the needs you see are that makes us very sure that we're going to need the same thing for the next fiscal year?
Yeah, I mean, we can't predict what's going to happen, certainly. As new variants come, we don't see COVID going away anytime soon. Certainly, Gail right now our public health nurse is working on case investigations for long-term daycares and long-term facility outbreaks, COVID vaccination clinics, and trainings, meetings, and answering residents' calls. I can't predict what will happen for, fiscal 24. I would say that with the additional 7.5 hours each week, she is using those to the max. So it would be great if we could certainly extend that.
I guess, Tom, you voiced my concern. I don't know where we're going to be in fiscal year 24. What the status of COVID will be in fiscal year 24. So I'm a little reluctant, like you are, Tom, to fund fiscal year 24 right now. I'm less reluctant to fund fiscal year 23, given that I think we still will be dealing with, in the impact and effects of COVID as we move forward into FY 23. So I see John has his hand up.
I think I'd go for 16 and hold off on 17, I think.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments from folks? You want to make that motion, John?
I make a motion, we approve 16.
All right. Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are now at the Council on Aging and its Internet Access Program. Yep, Jody, I know that they're not ready yet, right?
Right. They've been working really hard on this, but they're not quite ready. So if we could hold on this for another meeting, that would be great.
Absolutely. I mean, why don't we, Jody, why don't you let us know when they're ready to come back to us, and then we'll put them on our agenda, okay? Wait. We didn't go back. Thank you, Eric. We also have requests for funding of interface mental health referral, which is 2021, 22, and 23. Jody and then Anita. Unless, Anita, were you going to talk about the internet or not? The internet access?
I had a question for Ray Dick because I realized she's not on the agenda after this. Is she still on? I'm sorry to.
Is Ray still? Yes, she is. Here she is. She just popped up.
Hi, sorry.
That's okay.
This wasn't part of the vote, but I just had a question about some of the stuff that we approved last time. I know that there was like test kits and also the contact tracers, but since things have changed, I feel like kind of dramatically since then, could you just give an update on how things were going with that and just kind of where you, like how much of those funds are being used and what your plans are? Since we're not really doing as much contact tracing, it seems like.
Sure, absolutely. So just this week, we received an additional $110,000 from the Department of Public Health for COVID response. So our top priority is to use that funding for future contact tracing, as well as any COVID test kits or testing facilities that the community might need. Those are our regional funding. So that is our plan moving forward. We do not plan to use the $75,000 that was approved for ARPA funding for COVID kits at this time. We're just working out the details with the grant this week, and you'll see later on it is on the agenda for approval. Once we get that approval, we're working with our region to see how many kits we can order. Certainly our priority is not to use any of the ARPA funding for those kits.
Jody?
Okay, so I'm just trying to get clear. So Ray, are you returning the $75,000 to the town?
Sorry, it keeps muting and unmuting me. We are returning the $75,000 to the town.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tom? Tom?
My question was about or my comment was about the interface stuff. So
yeah, I think
we're ready for that. Okay.
I think so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray. So sort of with the same logic in mind, I think since the budget year, fiscal 23 is right in front of us, I think it makes sense to vote on this really important service for the upcoming fiscal year. And then I think maybe waiting sort of as a matter of policy, in my opinion, might be rather than fund things too many years out, maybe we can focus on things for this coming fiscal year. So I would support this service for this coming fiscal year.
Scott?
I agree with Tom in terms of his logic. I would just also add that I think if we're going to be hiring a mental health coordinator for the town, which we discussed at the last meeting, that he or she may have their own view of how to do this going forward. So I think it makes sense not to tie their hands with money being tied up that's funded for the year, and let our possible new hire make some recommendations too.
That makes sense. Okay. With that, Tom, is your motion to fund the interface mental health referral for FY23?
That was my plan, but let me just ask my colleague, through you, Madam Chair, ask my colleague Scott, were you thinking we just approve the 1 year also, or were you thinking that even before we do that, we should wait until we potentially get the new staff on board?
I am in complete agreement with you. We should fund it for the coming year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my motion then.
Okay. And wait, what numbers are those? 20 and 21?
I will second Tom's motion.
I think, Jody, can you correct me? I think, did we already vote for the fiscal year we're in? So it would just be a motion to support 20, or would it be 20 and 21?
Just be 20, I think.
Dan, mine doesn't show fiscal years. So I know that the schools funded, did they just fund for fiscal year 22, Dan?
It's not fiscal year, it's calendar year 22. So the expected project start date for item number 20 is January 1st of 23. So it is next fiscal year.
So the ESSER funds funded it through December, correct?
That's correct.
So you all are, I guess, is it number 20, January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Is that correct?
Yes.
At 34,500?
He's nodding yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
So my
all right,
my
so
motion is to
that's
support line item 20.
20. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for clarification. Okay, and John seconded it. Okay, all those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's see, where are we? We're at the library staging setups. And Ellen is here to tell us about this. So,
yes. So,
hi, Ellen.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. First, we would really like to thank Principal Antonelli and the Facilities Department for making it possible for us to borrow their outdoor staging for all of this past summer. Being librarians, we first started with borrowing and loaning, but having outdoor programming throughout the summer was so popular that we would actually like to have our own staging for that very modest amount. This really was COVID related. We felt we couldn't have 180 at Mother Goose inside a building. This year, we're again planning to have much of our summer reading program events take place out of doors, even our annual Harry Potter birthday party. So this allows us to have a performer or a presenter and to have that person be visible to a large group of youngsters in the backyard. And at times when we're using our radio frequency, we can also have those attendees in the back of their cars listening to our presenters on our radio station.
Great. Sounds, Anita? Sounds.
Just knowing how much joy the library events bring to the community, I'm happy to support number 24.
I think they're, I agree. I mean, it's great.
I second the motion if that's what Anita's done.
Yes, Anita has made the motion. So, and it is number 24.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Anita made the motion, Scott seconded. All those in favor, Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, where are we next? This one was from a resident, which was basically to, with respect to HVAC audit and air purifiers, to undertake a ventilation, filtration, and airflow audit. Jody, did you have your hand up or did you take it down?
Well, I was just going to remind the board that we had already done this in-house. So, and we did explain to the resident she didn't want to come tonight, but, you know, I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Okay. Anita?
I know that, so I was forwarded the email I think that she had sent on, and so that yellow block number 26, my understanding is that that's her revised request. And I don't know if Ray is still on, but I was just wondering if she saw this as well, about the idea of how to use test kits, or kind of where they might be readily available to residents.
Okay,
What's the health department thing? Sorry.
before Ray answers, Jay and, I'm sorry, Jody and Scott have their hands up. So Jody and then Scott.
Yeah, I did share this comment with Ray, so she is aware of this resident's ask.
Okay, and Scott?
Yeah, are we on 25 or 26?
I think we're talking about both of them. I understand, based on what I think I just heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, is that in light of the fact that the town undertook 25 already and has done this in-house, that the resident was therefore changing her request to 26. Is that right, Jody?
Thanks.
I'm not sure, but she does know that the town did this, so.
Did 25?
Yes, so, but I mean, if the board has no intention of funding that, I think it would be good to tell us so we can get it off the sheet.
That was my point, that, you know, do we can make a decision to explicitly take it off then? Which I guess is my motion to take it off.
Okay. Yeah, agreed, as we're trying to simplify everything. Is there a second to Scott's motion?
Second.
Okay, and all those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Nita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Scott. And now we're at 26, and so Ray, can you, I guess, respond to the questions that were raised? You know, how are we going to use the test kits? Where are they going to be located?
Sure, absolutely. So we're in the process of using the regional funding to order test kits. I will say the expiration dates for these kits, for instance, the ones we just got in for employees, expire in May. Kits that I was told today we were in the process of ordering a few thousand are expiring in July. So I just wanted to address that because that was one of her concerns. She wanted a large, moderate purchase. We're going to be placing some at the Camera Senior Center, the library, Meals on Wheels, Housing Authority, and I'm working with Jen Claro to try to get those also out to folks that don't have driving abilities and have other vulnerabilities.
Okay, so I guess, you know, Ray, my question to you is, since these test kits seem to have a short life expectancy before they expire, I know several weeks ago you told us that we had to order the kits in significant bulk. So is that still the case, or can we order them in smaller quantities? Because I guess I'm a little concerned that we start ordering test kits and that they expire before they're used.
Correct. So as more vendors and subscribers have come online to the state contract, we do have the ability now, where we didn't have that 2 weeks ago, to order smaller quantities of test kits. So that's our driving force. Yep.
Okay. So I guess with respect to this, it's the request is being funded through the state. So I think we can, and the issue is just how and where they were going to be available. So I think we can remove this one. So is there a motion to remove this one?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
And all those in favor, John?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Thank you. Okay, the next one is the East Boston Camps Revolving Fund and replacing funds for lost revenue. Jody, are you speaking to this? No, Matthew Salem is. Okay.
Well, let me just say before you call on Matt that the next three are revenue replacement, which is one of the conditions for ARPA. You don't have to fund these, but that's these next three are related to COVID, in our opinion, because we lost revenue.
So let me ask a question before we get there. Dan, based on what we have approved so far,
Yes.
what have we spent? And
So,
what's our total spend now, and how much do we have left?
So tonight we've allocated just over $753,000. Our current available balance is $1,644,000.
Is that after the 753?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And I guess, before we go to the revenue replacements, let's go back to WestfordCAT's request that we put on hold, which I think was for 16,800 for their piece of equipment. You know, honestly, in light of what we have, at least in my opinion, in light of what we have funded and what we have left, I would be in favor of funding that now.
I agree.
Okay. So Scott, is that your motion? I can't remember. Oh, that was number 4.
That's my motion, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott? John?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now we've got 3 requests for replacement of funds. One is for East Boston camps, one is for the field maintenance revolving fund, and one is for OPEB trust funds. So those are the
Yes.
those are those 3. Yep, I see you, Jody.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So actually, number 29 is to replace lost hotel excise revenue.
Oh, well, that's not what it says.
Well, it does in the description, but basically, if you remember, because we missed our revenue projections in hotel, we are going to fund OPEB at the same percentage of the loss by free cash. So if you choose to replace the hotel revenue, then that would put free cash back. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but that would put free cash back in the pile to be used for other purposes. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Tom.
My question through you, Madam Chair, is to Jody. Just in terms of the amounts, these amounts are sort of ballpark what the actual revenue lost or the effect of the actual revenue lost?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
John?
I have this question for Jody. Should our motion then be to replace lost options or lost meals and hotel excise revenue? That should be the motion?
No, it could be to approve the project by number, just to be clear. But, and again, you know, this is up to you all, but I think when Dan and I were finishing up the budget and we were pulling off free cash because of lost revenue, we thought, wait a minute, ARPA is supposed to allow you to replace lost revenue. So let's at least add it to the sheet. But you can make a motion longer, but I would really prefer you to put the number in there so that we know what you're talking about. But it is to replace hotel excise lost revenue. That's what it's for.
Well, the reason I bring that point up is because if you try to replace a fund or a retirement fund or something like that directly, they allow you to replace lost revenue, but not the other. And I don't know how OPED fits into that, but I think just to understanding that we're replacing excise tax revenue, then that's fine.
So what would happen is if you do choose to do this, then we will revise the budget that we gave to you today, and where we were taking from free cash to fund the $267,000 to OPEB, that would not happen. It would not come from free cash. It would come from ARPA. That makes sense? See, so
okay.
We have a balance of free cash that we use for a lot of capital generally, but in this case, we were going to fund OPEB. OPEB, thank you.
What would you characterize OPEB as?
Well, okay, OPEB is health insurance and life insurance for retirees, the future obligation for retirees, health and life. And that's what we have the 75, give or take, million liability.
It's not considered a pension fund?
No.
Okay.
No. But what you're doing, if you do this, is you're replacing the lost revenue from hotel. And we would then use that ARPA to fund the OPEB instead of free cash. And according to Dan, this is all legal.
Okay. All right.
Tom,
I was just ready to make a motion.
before you do, I know Matt Salem has had his hand up, so I just want to ask him for any comments he might have, okay? Matt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, it was just, my hand was up before, and if I haven't taken it down, I apologize. If it was when you were calling on me.
Okay. Then Tom, with that, if you're prepared to make a motion.
Yes, given that it is an appropriate use to use revenue replacement and that this mirrors roughly the approximate effect of the revenue loss, I recommend supporting lines 27, 28, 29.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. And then the last one we have is the Community Wellness Coordinator Year 3. I think, as everybody remembers, we funded 18 months already. And so that gets us through, does that get us through all the way through fiscal year 23? Jody? You're muted.
Yes, it does. And again, you didn't direct us to remove this from the sheet, so that's why it's on here. And we're just looking for direction, what you want us to do with the second year and a half of the request.
I think, following sort of the informal policy we've set tonight, which is we're funding requests through fiscal year 23 because we're looking at that immediately and then reevaluating where things are for fiscal year 24. It makes sense to do that with this request as well, although I know it falls in a somewhat different category than the other requests. But I think for sort of consistency's sake, it would be my suggestion that we do that and we defer the fiscal year 24 for a later date. Jody?
Yes, thank you. That's really clear to us because, we really needed to know whether you were saying no or deferring some of these things. So that really helps clarify for us. So we will hold that on the sheet, but as a look at that in 24 or before 24. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And I think with that, we are done for tonight with ARPA. And we made some decisions, so good for us. And I know that, hang on a minute, John, I know that Dan and Jody are very happy as well. Would also, I guess, quickly, Dan, based now on everything we've spent tonight, what's the total spend and what do we have left?
So tonight, the board authorized $1,117,478, and we have remaining just over $1.28 million.
Great, thank you. Scott?
Just to be clear, there is another 3 million coming in July, right, Dan, or August?
3.7 this summer, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got close to in total, we've got still close to about 5 million that we will have.
Yes, just under.
Yeah, I said close. Okay. The other thing I just want to say is we have thank yous from Ellen Rainbill, Sarah Fletcher, and the schools for our funding decisions and support tonight. So, John, you had your hand up. Did you have something to say or ask?
No, I had a question, but you've already answered those, so thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Moving right along, we're at old and new business. First item on the agenda is a request from Westford Remembers to install a memorial honorary marker for the late Westford Police Chief Joseph P. Cannell on the traffic island located at Canal Drive. So I think David Christiana is out there. So why don't we unmute him, and David, briefly, you can tell us about your project.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me tonight. It's been a while since I've talked to all of you guys. So essentially what we're doing is, as you know, during COVID, we kind of went a different direction, helping people, residents in town with groceries and various different needs during COVID. So our monument kind of stuff took a back seat. But we did manage to finally get the Revolutionary War kind of monument in place. I think just over the summer. So this monument that we're talking about, it's just a small memorial marker that we wanted to put in place on Canal Drive. I think you guys have the description of it and the drawing of it, and the location of it.
We do.
So essentially it's the historic marker that we do in town that you guys had approved for municipal stuff. And it just has a little story about Chief Cannell. As you know, he was a chief for over 30 years, probably one of the longest police chiefs we've had so far. But he had a significant history prior to that. He was a combat Marine. He fought in 3 major battles in Korea. He was a professional boxer briefly. He's got quite a history with the town, very dedicated to the town. He was a highway superintendent prior to becoming a policeman. And then he became the police chief. He's kind of, if any of you ever met him, he's kind of unforgettable. He had this kind of steely-eyed look, kind of like an eagle, which is why we're putting an eagle on top of the post. He had quite an impact on a town. He was a man of integrity, honesty. He demanded that his force was the same way. There are stories he'd go out and check on his patrolmen if they were doing a detail, and he'd quietly drive by to see that they were actually doing the job and paying attention. And there are all sorts of amazing things that he did. He started the safety officer program for the Westford Police. He also, Ray Peachy started the safety officer program where Officer Peachy would go into the schools. So I remember as a kid, he would come in and talk about, a stranger danger and all that stuff, and how to ride our bicycles safely and bicycle helmets. This all was under Chief Cannell as well. But I guess.
Okay, so understanding his contributions to the community.
Yep. Yeah, so understanding all that, I'm just saying some people don't realize some of the contributions.
Yep.
So the post would be a granite post. The granite post is being donated by Graniteville Materials. The sign obviously is donated by Westford Remembers, as well as the eagle, which is already done. It's just waiting for its post. It's going to be about 15 feet from Main Street on that island, so it's not going to be directly right on Main Street. You're going to have to go in a little bit to see it. And that's pretty much what we're looking to do.
David, how tall is the post? How tall would the monument be with the post and the eagle on top of it?
So we're talking probably about, at the most, 6 feet with the eagle on top.
Okay.
So it's going to be between 5 and 6 feet, and the post itself it's going to be 14 by 14. So 14 inches by 14 inches, only because the base of the eagle, as you see there, I kind of flared it out a little bit, and it's like 13 inches in diameter. So in order for it to fit, it's got to be like a 14 by 14 inch post.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we have, let me first see if there are any comments from the board, and then I know there are a couple of folks in the audience who have some comments. John, and then Tom.
Yeah, well, it looks like a good tribute to Chief Cannell. Is there any landscaping associated with this, or is this just planned to be a bare post sticking out of the ground?
Well, I had been thinking about like maybe putting some like cobblestone pavers around, like we do a lot, like on the common there are the cobblestone pavers, just to kind of keep with the way the town kind of does its what's the word I'm trying to look for? And just to kind of keep in step with what we already do. So they'd probably be just cobblestones around it to give it some sort of base, you know, into the ground. There don't need to be any flowers or anything like that. Essentially, we want to kind of keep it so it doesn't need to be maintained. As you know, like Westford Remembers, we pretty much maintain everything that we put in. Every year, it usually falls on me, of course, but we seal these things. We try to keep it up kept and looking good. But essentially, we try to make them so there's not much maintenance at all, if need to be. So we try to keep it simple.
Okay, Tom.
Thank you, and thank you, David, and for all the work that you do, and certainly Chief Cannell made a huge contribution to our town. I'm sort of wondering if previous Westford Remembers memorials have all been either 9/11 or veteran related. Is that right? I'm just wondering if this is the first time we're kind of now moving into key important civic figures, and what's on my mind is just sort of recognizing the whole community in some way, and just wondering if Westford Remembers is casting a wide net going forward if we're not focused closely on veteran specific memorials or 9/11.
So Westford Remembers has, I don't know if it's strayed or we've gone out of our zone of just veterans and, you know, like public safety. The Pelori Memorial by the Rodenbush was actually a request. The town came to us and asked if we would help the Pelori family come up with something. They wanted to donate something in memory of their son who was killed at the ski area. He was a huge, he loved Westford, and so they really wanted to do something for him. So we did that as well, which is not a, you know, veteran type memorial. The Westford Night is not a veteran type memorial, and it kind of is outside of things. So it's any sort of memorial, it's any sort of monument. We do all the historic signs, which are not obviously all veteran related. We do quite a bit. We've kind of taken over in the last 10 years. As some of you on the board know, we advise you guys on a lot of different monuments or different ideas that we have. And as a group, I know some people think it's just me and Nancy Cook, but it's actually quite a bit of, we got about 6 or 7 different people on Westford Remembers. We have select board representative. We have.
Okay, David, I'm going to interrupt you because you've gone way beyond the question that was asked. Okay.
So I guess we have such a variety. We do multiple things, and we do take into account other different things in the community. Does that help? Does that answer?
Yep. Okay. John?
Are there any traffic issues with this? I mean, this doesn't show like it's anybody's land. You look on the GES system and it doesn't show as it's an island in between 2 streets. And I just wonder if there are any safety issues with this or any kind of right-of-way issues with putting a monument in between those 2 roads or in between the 2.
Looking at it, if you were to see it, you're correct. It's an island. It's away from the intersection, so it's not going to interfere with any turning or anything. There are signs in that area that are for like parking signs. So there are already existing signs. So this will be right in the middle. There's nothing that would interfere with any sort of traffic issues there.
Okay, we have a couple of questions from the audience, and I'm going to get you in 1 minute, but I am just, I am posing a question, and it's more of a policy question. I don't expect an answer. To be honest, I think it's something that we need to just think about as we go forward, which is how do we make a determination, or what standard of criteria do we use to make determinations that one person, whomever that person may be, is worthy of, entitled to a monument, and somebody else may or may not be. I'm concerned just about criteria and standards moving forward and how we make this determination. And that we do it, if we're going to do it, we do it in a way that is consistent and doesn't seem sort of arbitrary based on, you know, whomever the person is or who's proposing the person to have a monument erected for. An overall, as I said, policy question. So Anita?
I had the same questions and concerns that you had, Andrea, when I saw this. Obviously, it's a beautiful monument, and you do amazing work, David. But I was kind of wavering a little bit on, well, how do we really decide on which ones do move forward and are allowed to be erected? And kind of, I had a similar question as Tom's in terms of scope for the whole town. What if there's other folks we might want to be exploring? And I'm not clear on what the process should be either.
Yeah, because I'm not sure we have a process. In fact, I should say I don't think we do have a process. Scott?
So I think, you're right, that there ought to be perhaps some guidelines. I guess I'm thinking in this case, we've got a town veteran long-term police chief. I mean, if we were to have any kind of criteria, I think Chief Cannell would have qualified. So, if we want to think about going forward, we're also putting, Chief Cannell's monument on Cannell Drive. So, I mean, there is a logic here that I think makes a lot of sense. And if we want to go going forward, what is the policy that makes perfectly good sense to consider?
Okay. All right. We have a couple of folks who have their hands up. Ellen Hardy has been patiently waiting, as has a few other folks. So can we unmute Ellen? Hi, Ellen.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I wanted to speak actually to what both Andrea and Anita brought up, and that is to a little history, is that when previous Board of Selectmen, and they were the selectmen then, had before them several proposals to put monuments in town. And what they chose to do at that time was to, in fact, create a monument advisory committee. This was in 2000. And the town report tells us that purpose of that was to, number one, identify and document all of the monuments that were in town. And in addition to, quote, draft a policy document that, when accepted, will define locating, naming, and approval of future monuments. And because most of the monuments that were proposed at that time had to do with honoring veterans, Paul Murray was a member of that committee because he was he's a veteran. He was representing the VFW. I was on that committee as a representative of the Common Restoration Project. And I think maybe it's time, and Anita and Andrea brought this up, to revive that committee. It doesn't exist anymore. They did their job for about 10 years. And then Paul, at that time, became the veterans agent in town. And his feeling was that since most of these were veterans' decisions, that the Veterans Agent could sort of take on the work of the Monument Advisory Committee. But that has not sustained itself over the years as Terry and then the current, I think they were just never asked, told. It was just sort of forgotten. So took the liberty of speaking with Paul Murray over this past weekend. He's very interested in contributing to this situation as we are in, because I think that, you know, if we do one, there may be another request, and it really would be nice to have those standards established so that the board has a basis on which to say yes or no. And just as an example, when the Board of Selectmen did accept the Common Restoration Project, the agreement was at that point in time that throughout the entire Westford Center Historic District, there would be no additional monuments placed in that area because the center has sort of become saturated with monuments, and it was a 30.2 square mile town, and some of those could go elsewhere. So this could conceivably conflict with that decision, which can be reversed, but it was what this board decided probably in about 2012. It was after the bandstand went in and the project was completed. So I would ask you to consider reviving that committee, and Paul, as I say, is willing to come back and serve on it so that the guidelines that both Anita and Andrea have asked for can be established, and then you can go forward with all requests and have it be a even playing field. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alexander Canella, you have had your hand up and down. I'm not sure whether you want to speak or not, but if you do, it's up again. So, all right, Alex, if we can unmute him.
Have I been unmuted?
You have. We can hear you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for being invited to the meeting. One of the concerns I might have, first of all, I think it's a great idea to honor Chief Connell, regardless of his veteran status. I think he served the town very well for a long period of time. Scott Hazelton and I met about a summer or so ago because I had concerns about how this median was looking lately. In fact, it hadn't been cut for quite some time until after I talked to Scott, and then the highway department came down and started cutting it. I mean, Scott saw weeds that were probably 12 inches high. So my concern will be if there is going to be a fitting monument to Chief Connell, that the median be maintained and kept as it used to be, rather than letting the grass die, and the trees are in terrible shape here.
Thank you. We also have some comments in the questions and comments area. Let's see, Nancy Cook responded to a couple of questions that were asked in terms of, I think one of them was monuments besides those that honored veterans or 9/11. And she writes, Lifetime Achievement Awards, Westford Academy Distinguished Alumni. She also writes that, and I think this was in response to John's question about traffic, that Westford Remembrance checked with the police chief and he had no issues. She then also writes, we would like to do that with the select board, come up with a plan. I assume that she means she'd like to work with the select board to come up with a policy and set standards. Yep, she just wrote in policy. And then finally, I think Diane Wood wrote in with a question, which is echoing the question or the concern that the board has raised about what standards and criteria would be set for determining the next monument and how that's going to be done. And Christy Bates wrote, as Ellen has told us, that there used to be a town, the town used to have a committee that reviewed memorials and monuments. She also suggests that we may need a committee to determine who a building will be named after. Those are all the comments that I got from the audience in our Q&A section. David, I see that you have your hand up, so certainly recognize you again.
Thank you. I just wanted to answer a couple of the questions, hopefully briefly.
Not hopefully, briefly.
Well, yes, briefly. You know me too well.
I do.
So just a couple of questions. Ellen Hardy, I agree with her in regards to a memorial advisory committee. What's kind of ironic is one of the only monuments that the Memorial Advisory Committee approved was the firefighter monument that I did in 2000, 2001. And then it seemed to have gone defunct. Westford Remembers was actually established in 2011 by town manager Jody Ross, and a committee was formed. It was first supposed to be just for the 9/11 stuff. And since then we've been, as you know, we've done, I think, like 6 monuments in the last 10 years. We've kind of advised the select board. We work with all the different departments. We kind of are the memorial committee for the town. Actually, I think we're more proactive, and we work with more departments and more commissions to get the job done. I do agree that we do need some standards for some of the monument stuff. As you know, like I said, I was trying to say earlier, but just because Ellen brought it up, Nancy Cook was also on that Memorial Advisory Committee. She's obviously on Westford Remembers. We're represented by Public Safety, Select Board. We have Planning Board members. We have Historical Society members. We're pretty much represented by what would be on, including Terry Stater, the veterans. He also
David, we get that, okay? And I think that where the board is, where the board is going, I think with the feeling of the board right now is that we are going to set up a committee that establishes standards and policies for when and how a monument can be constructed for somebody. I certainly think I haven't talked to the board yet, but I suspect that it will be the board's feeling that at least, there will be a representative from Westford Remembers on that committee.
Great.
I just have, Tom and Anita, I see you, but Joseph Cannell Jr. has raised his hand, so I want to recognize him, and then I'll get to the two of you, and then we need to decide what we're going to do and move on. So, Joseph? Are you there? He's still muted, looks like. Eric, is he still muted?
Yes, I'm trying to unmute him.
Okay. I tell you what, while you're trying, I'll go to Tom and then Anita for their comments. Tom?
Just in support of the idea of putting this commission together so that we have, the right kind of criteria, that we're encouraging a sort of a broad net be cast of all the people of various colors and genders and orientations that have contributed to Westford in important ways. And just if the question is, what happens to this specific request? At least my feeling now is that it would be prudent to take a little bit of extra time, form the committee, and then put this one through that process. Just because even if it does take us a couple more months, I think we'll be glad we did that. And also I think it'll establish a better precedent if some other group in the future comes and puts forward a request that maybe the town doesn't feel like they're ready to support. So that's my take.
Okay. Anita, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say similarly, kind of to what Tom was saying, and just to kind of add that, having a monument committee would be really great, where it's welcoming to other people, other artists in town who might be interested in submitting a design as well, or kind of thinking about ways that Westford Remember could work with other artists in town as well. Just something to add to the list.
Great. Eric, were you able to unmute Mr. Cannell or not?
No luck. Sorry.
Okay.
Get him unmuted.
All right. Well, I apologize to him. If he'd like to write his comment or question in the chat or the question and answer box, please go ahead and do that, and we'll try and get back to it. But meanwhile, it seems to me there is a consensus from the board that we should establish a commission. So I think perhaps, I think what I would suggest is that we put this on our agenda for the next meeting so that we, before then, can work on a charge for the commission, as well as establishing the membership and the makeup of the commission. Does that make sense to folks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then we will do that, and we will put it on our next agenda, which is February 22nd. Thank you all for your participation and your comments, and to be continued. All right. Next item is an update from Eric on the next steps with respect to 12 North Main Street.
All right, thank you. So you'll see on your screen here is an update we provided in the packet regarding the 12 North Main Street property. You may recall that the last time we discussed this, we talked about a $240,000 grant we obtained from the One Stop for Growth grant program through Mass Development. So the two big items, we're really looking for some direction on is if the board has an appetite for trying to partially stabilize the building and preserve a piece, or should our office focus towards demolition. That definitely doesn't need to be determined right now, although at some point as we proceed forward with different grant opportunities and funding, we will need to make that decision. As far as number two here that you'll see on the screen is the supplemental funding required to complete the exterior hazardous material remediation work. So there's approximately a balance of $294,000 that we would need to fund to complete the scope of work identified by our LSP. We just got the final grant paperwork for that $240,000, so we can start moving forward, which we hope to do once the snow melts and the ground thaws. And we actually have somebody new assigned to us from our LSP, and they have some background and specialty in grants, especially federal grants. So we're hoping to obtain some additional funds to put towards this project through President Biden's infrastructure plan. So in a nutshell, that's it. I guess in November, you may recall the Historical Commission did provide their recommendation to at least preserve a portion of the building and to decrease the footprint by approximately 1/3. That would be removing the exterior walls that are remaining on the northern section of the building. From there, last month, we met with the Permanent Town Building Committee just to get their input. And during that meeting, this draft proposed next steps was reviewed. So they were supportive of this, and they actually assigned Nancy Cook to work with our office as a representative for PTBC. So we wanted to present this to you tonight as well.
Okay, thank you, Eric, and thank you for everybody who's your hard work on this. Comments or questions? I don't see any. Oh, now I do. John.
Well, I kind of support the approach of the Historical Commission. I think we need to preserve part of this, but we need to get further down the line, I think, with the remediation or whatever you want to call it, reclamation of the property, and see if we can find some other money to finish it. So.
Right. So I think, Eric, basically this was just information for us tonight. You're not looking for any decisions from us tonight, is that right?
Actually, the item number 2 is something we are looking for some direction on.
Okay.
Whether the board would either support ARPA funding to pay for the balance of the exterior remediation work, or if the board did not feel as though ARPA was appropriate, to support an article at the upcoming town meeting, which we would likely try to obtain from CPA if the board supports preservation versus demolition.
Okay, and just prior to that, you mentioned that there might be a possibility for additional federal funds?
We do anticipate that there will be federal funds coming down the road. The One Stop for Growth grant program is actually just had an expression for interest period again for this fiscal year. We spoke with our representative there and he told us, you know, it was best if the town got moving with this $240,000 that we already received. And once we have a good portion of that expended and the work completed, they think that that will better place us for in line to obtain other funding. So our goal is to try to get going with this exterior cleanup ASAP as soon as the ground thaws. That way we are able to apply in the coming months when that final grant applications are due.
Great, thank you. And let's see if we can get some direction for you. Scott?
So that, you know, to me, number one is, I think we've heard enough to say that yes, our preference is to preserve at least a portion of it. But as for number 2, you know, I can't tonight say yes, ARPA, till I know what other trade-offs we have from that, you know, that phase 2 list. So I hate to procrastinate, but I'm not prepared to say yes or no tonight to number 2.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, similar vein. So Eric, when, in order to keep, so the town has decided that we're going to clean this up. So we're going to do it. I think in previous meetings we've said we're going to do it. So when do you need to know where this next tranche of money is going to come from?
Well, we could piecemeal the work, but it will increase the cost of the overall scope. So if we do it, if we want to get this done and better place ourselves for the next round of One Stop for Growth grants, we would likely want to get the money in place in the next couple months, ideally through ARPA. If we wait to town meeting, that certainly will delay us some to getting the work done. It may not happen right away with this first initial batch with the 240,000. But I think the way that our guidance has been received from the mass development, the further along we are with the exterior remediation, the more likely we'll be able to obtain other funding.
Jody? Oh, I'm sorry, before I go to Jody, Tom, did you have another question or it was?
Well, I guess
or
just
a follow-up?
So, yeah, the follow-up, I guess, is, so we're going to go through these phase 2 ARPA requests sort of in parallel with the capital planning and the budgeting process over the next couple of months. So I agree with Scott. I'd like to understand what else is on the table and be able to balance those requests before we decide which of the 2 paths you've outlined here is best. So I guess the question is, will we be, it seems like we'll be far enough through the budget process and discussion, say 2 months from now, for us to be much better informed and make a decision which direction to go. Is that okay in terms of the work, or do you really need to know sooner than, say, 2 months from now?
I will say we can break the work up, so it's not make or break. Ideally, I think the more that we can show that is completed of that scope of work, the better. But you know, that's not to say we still won't obtain another grant, even if we're 50% done through the grant only. So it could go either way.
Jody?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, I think that the CPA process has already come and gone for the upcoming town meeting. I don't know if Dan's out there and can verify that, but I think we've missed their application process. I know they have a lot of funding. So anyway,
I forgot to mention one really important part. So in 2015, the town actually already appropriated $378,000 to address remediation and some stabilization. So of that, there's about $125,000 left. So if the board's direction was to focus on preservation as opposed to demolition, we could apply roughly 120,000 of that towards this. So it would bring the amount that we would be requesting from ARPA down to 174,500.
Okay. I agree with both Tom and Scott. At this point, I'm not prepared to commit even 174,000 of ARPA funds without knowing where, what the other requests are, how it fits into that. And I think that, as Tom said, or Scott said, I can't remember which, I think, we have, I thought, at least informally come to a decision that, if we could preserve some of the building, that we would. So if we do that, then we can use CPA or CPC funds for that purpose. And it seems to me, Eric, that would get us even further along, which then addresses your concern about going for the next round of one-stop funding. So that's where I'm coming from right now. So any other comments or questions? Anita?
I agree with you, Andrea, and Tom, and just understanding, Eric, that you were saying kind of piecemealing everything might end up with sort of like the larger the later. I think it also helps us give us some time with what we are going to do with that land, kind of taking these a little bit more of a phased approach.
Okay, so Eric, I think you have direction.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, thank you for, I know you've worked hard on this project, and so thank you. We appreciate your efforts.
It's a team effort. So great. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is a request to open the annual town meeting warrant. Town meeting is scheduled for Saturday, June 11th, 2022. Is there a motion to open the warrant?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott? John?
Aye.
Aye. And just for the public's information, first of all, the timeline for our annual town meeting can be found on the town's website. But 2 dates for folks to know about right now is that any non-citizen petition article is due to the town meeting's office, the town manager's office by March 30th, 2022. And for citizens petitions, the deadline is for submittal to the town clerk's office by April 5th, 2022 at 2 p.m. Okay, next. So as Jody mentioned during her budget presentation, we've got union negotiations coming up. And so we need to, among ourselves, decide and appoint individual members to the 5 contracts that she's going to be negotiating, plus the Westford schools have asked for representatives for their teachers contract, their curriculum coordinator contract, and their nurses contract. Starting with the 3 school contracts, I know in the past, Tom and I have been the board's designation or designees. Both Tom and I are willing to do that again, unless anybody else on the board has strong feelings that they would like to do it. Scott?
I would be happy to appoint you and Tom. You can pick which one is the lead, which one is the alternate.
Yeah, we kind of do it together. Okay. Jody, I don't think we need formal votes, do we? Okay. All right.
And
All right.
also, if, you don't always participate in every town contract. So whatever someone's interested in, we can assign you, but, it's not mandatory if you're busy. So, yeah, thank you.
All right. So that leaves OPIU, CWA, the Westford Public Works Association, the Westford Superior Officers, and the Westford Police Association. So anybody have any, strong interest in any one of those? Scott, that they'd like to volunteer?
I did public works with Jody last time, and it was a great bunch of guys. We're happy to do that again.
Great. Okay. That takes care of you. Anybody else want to volunteer for anything? Has any interest?
I would be interested in the Police Association, the Superior Officers and the Westford Police Association.
Okay. Leave CWA and OPIU. If Anita.
I'm happy to cover whatever's left.
Okay. That would be OPIU and CWA.
Okay.
Great. I think that's everything. Okay.
Thank you.
And I think that takes care of old and new business. Any board reports or updates? Okay, seeing none. Minutes for approval. We have minutes from December 14th, 2021, January 11th, 2022, and January 25th, 2022 for approval and release. Is there a motion to approve and release?
I'll move.
A second? Oh, Anita had her hand. Nope. Okay.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Town managers report. Jody?
Yes, thank you. So I have a request to remove the town manager as a member of Economic Development Committee. I do have a staff member, Jeff Morissette, on that committee, and our town planner also participates. And I've found that it is just too time consuming for me to continue. I did notify the committee and they understand. And I will attend when there's something for me to comment on or share.
Okay. Do we need to vote of that? Oh, all right. Is there a motion to agree to or to approve the removal of the town manager as a member of the Economic Development Committee?
It is with deep regret that I make a motion to remove the town manager as a member of the Economic Development Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm requesting your approval of the following grants: the National Association of County and City Health Officials to strengthen MRC units' current capabilities for evolving response missions in the amount of $10,000. It's requested by the Health Department, and grant amendment, which Ray Dick spoke of earlier, with the Mass Department of Public Health for $111,269 for COVID-19 public health response activities. And then contracts, Blue Cross Blue Shield, administrative services, account agreement as required for our partially self-funded health insurance plan for covered members. The Lowell Regional Transit Authority for a vehicle lease for the COA vans, and Ty and Bond for professional engineering services for the Blanchard School wastewater treatment in the amount of $26,900. Mass Cultural Council for the Westford's Local Culture Council Fiscal Year 22 program in the amount of $8,900 as requested by the Cultural Council. And purchase orders Sanofi Pasteur, I'm not sure I said that right, for flu vaccines for the 2022 season, the amount of $48,198.17. JT Lynn Flow Elements for replacement flow control valves at the Nutting Road Treatment Plant, the amount of $32,649. And Gov Connection for wireless access points in the amount of $16,859.50.
Before we vote, Christy Bates has her hand up, so can we unmute her? Hi, Christy.
Hi, Andrea. Sorry, I did not intentionally do that. I apologize.
Oh, okay. I was wondering, but that's okay. All right. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the grants, contracts, and purchase orders? Before I make the motion, Anita?
Just a quick clarifying question for under contracts, the Westford Cultural Council, is that miscategorized? Should that be under grants?
So it's funny, I thought the same thing. It is a grant, but they are asking for us to sign a contract. So technically it could be under grants or contracts, but that's what it's for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the grants, contracts, and purchase orders.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Okay. Is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence?
So moved.
Jody?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that you did have a letter from a resident and regarding our fiscal year 22 real estate exemption, and we did get together with that person and we are working with that person. So I just wanted you to know that.
Good.
Thanks.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? In a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, thank you all very much. We did a lot of work tonight and appreciate it all. Thank you to Westford residents. Everybody stay safe and be well. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you.